Hello guys, welcome back to the second episode of While on Quarantine here on Nocturnal Sage. For tonight, I'll be talking to you about the things that I've learned or I wish I should have known before I finished school. That is from kinder to college. Because these things were not explained to me, or maybe they were mentioned once or twice by some of my teachers, but they were never really elaborated that much. Now, after 7 years of working and earning, I was able to learn these things through experience. Well, they say experience is the best teacher, and now I'm here to tell you what I learned from my 7 years of work experience. And if you're watching this and you're still a student who is technically enrolled in a particular school, well, you wouldn't have to tell yourself that you wish you knew these things when you started working. So congratulations for knowing in advance. Let's get started with the 5 things that I wish I knew before I finished school. 1. Skills are more important than titles. You know, when we select our college degree programs, we have this dilemma: would this suit the job, or will this make me land the job that I want? If you ask someone who has been working for at least 7 years, in the real world, people will care less about the bachelor degree program that you finished, but they'll focus more on your ability to carry out, yes, your job, whichever job it is. For example, I may be an English major, but if I can show the world, my employer, that I can teach Korean or Filipino very effectively, and then my students are able to use the language effectively, then they will ignore my being an English major and focus on the results that I'm able to deliver. Get my point? So don't let your college degree program stop you. If, let's say, you wanted to enter engineering, but because you did not pass the admission test, instead you got rechanneled to, let's say, psychology, don't fret. Because first of all, why are you entering college in the first place? It's because you want to be trained for a particular line of work. So let's say you may enter in a certain program that is far from what you originally wanted. But let me tell you this, that in the real world, people will pay more attention to how you perform your job than the degree that you finished. Though then again, I'm not saying that you should forget about shifting to the program that you really want, if you really want to pursue engineering. Okay, I'm not saying that you should get rid of that plan, but more often than not, like myself, I originally wanted to enter literature, philosophy, or any college of liberal arts degree program. Unfortunately, I was not accepted, so I had to have myself reconsidered under an education program, teaching program, that is. I could have shifted after 2 terms, but I chose to stay because I saw the relevance of the program that I had myself reconsidered in, education, with my initial choices, literature, philosophy, and media studies. And since I found out that with the degree program that I have finished can land me on that related fields, then I forewent my plans to shift to another degree program, because at that time I also thought of the practicality. Well, maybe when you start working, people will not look at my degree program, but how well I do my job. The next thing that I wish I knew before I finished school was that social connections never end. I have always described myself to be an introvert, but not in the sense that I want to isolate myself from others, but it's just that I'm more comfortable working in when people don't bother me, or when I work with a small number of people, because I want more time to think. And if I'm around too many people talking to me at the same time, then my creative juices, my my mental energy gets drained. I prefer working alone most of the time and doing things my way. Whether or not that's the case, your social connections will keep you moving forward. How is that? First of all, whether or not you get employed in a company depends on whom you know. Nowadays, it's not about the flashy resumes or CVs that you submit to HR or any admissions board. Your ability to get accepted also depends on who's interviewing you, on who's deciding whether you make the cut or whether you deserve the job. Let's say, for example, you apply to a certain company, and then just so happens that your soon to be boss, let's say, used to be a batchmate back in high school. Well, that's an advantage, especially if that person knows you as a person, as you, even in a non-professional setting, and especially if you used to be very good friends, you'll have an edge over the other applicants. But I'm not saying that a kind of nepotism always works. But if you take into consideration the stories of other people, how they got accepted into a particular company, it's usually because they knew someone else in that company, or someone else referred them to the boss. So social connections will keep you moving forward. That's what I learned. Now, it doesn't matter anymore if I am more comfortable working alone or with few people, but the most important takeaway here is that you should never burn bridges. Never, let's say, after a fight, you will continue being angry at a certain person, because you'll never know when you'll be needing something from that person. You should also remember that, let's say you start working and then you resign, and let's say you had a boss, an undesirable boss. Please do not burn bridges with that boss. Still remain friendly with that boss. Be civil if, let's say, you cannot get yourself to like him or her after your tenure with that company. And also, as for social connections, it will also help. Yes, I wish I knew this earlier. It would also help if you're involved in many groups or organizations. Me, LaSalle is not the only organization I'm affiliated with. I am affiliated with Matang Tubig Unida Church, a family heritage church in Tondo. I'm also affiliated with my DLSU Karate Club. As an alumnus, I occasionally help train newbies. And also, I continuously train to have myself, I also want to sharpen my skills still. Yes, I'll talk more later about continuous learning. And then, aside from, yes, Zobel, Matang Tubig, and DLSU Karate Club, the basic unit of society, my family. That shouldn't be out of your network, your family. Because let's say by the time you're working straight, let's say for 5 years, you're working, you have a stable job, yes, but there will be a time when you're going to want to take a break in the middle of your job, of your career, and you'll have your family who will be able to salvage you. So social connections are very important. Oh yes, that's it for the second lesson. For the third lesson, in connection with social networking, there will always be politics. Yes, I've heard of politics before I graduated from college, but let me tell you this as soon as possible, if you're a student, that politics is a natural phenomenon in any workplace. In my previous job, I could attribute my not being renewed. I would attribute that to being victimized by the office politics. I'm not blaming the existence of that, but I think the reason why I have that attribution is because I wasn't good at making the politics work in my favor. So in connection with being friendly towards people, you also have to know when to say something, what to say, and what to withhold, and when to withhold something. That's part of being politically intelligent, whichever position you have, whether you're a manager, whether you're employer, or you're at the bottom of the food chain in that workplace. So political intelligence, I wish I sharpened my political skills before I had myself employed. Though you shouldn't be evaluated or judged based on extra qualities like For example, are you fond of treating people to free lunch or dinner? Well, that's a technique that is commonly employed by many. They give they treat their associates by giving them free food, by bringing in food. It may be something that they cook themselves or they had delivered from a fast food chain or whatnot. It's the reason why that practice exists is because these people want to establish rapport with the seniors or people who have stayed longer in that organization. So it's a way of politically uplifting themselves. So that's what I wish I had learned before I finished school, that political intelligence also matters. And also, aside from demonstrating friendly behavior, you also have to be tactful. There are some things that you should say about yourself and some things that you shouldn't say about yourself. For instance, telling people about, let's say, your political, yes, this is something that you should consider very carefully. You shouldn't, I think, talk about in the office your political inclinations. For example, do you like the president or not? It's not something that should be discussed. And also, you shouldn't be disclosing your intentions every now and then. Like, okay, next year I will resign. Sometimes it helps if you keep mum about things and then say them at the right time, whether or not they're true. Part of being politically intelligent is knowing what to say at the right time and who to say it to. And also, you have to be mindful of hierarchy also. If you're working full-time like me, you should be very mindful of office hierarchy. There will be bureaucracies everywhere that you will work at, and learning how to ride the waves of the political waves will help save your career in the long term. I encountered this quote that yes, we can win friends and friends come and go, but enemies accumulate. So that suggests human beings are indeed political animals. I think a famous philosopher once said that. So again, don't be discouraged on your first year of work when certain office politics seem not to work in your favor. It's part of growing up. But if you're learning this before you get accepted into this company that you're applying yourself to, well, consider this an admonition that you will encounter lots of politics in different forms. And yes, let me include there the people whom you think are your friends, first or second year of working there, third year or fourth year. Let's see, if you get promoted or when you have a different job assignment or when they get promoted or you have different, let's say, you get assigned at different office spaces, let's see how they'll treat you. So that's part of that office politics. The fourth thing that I wish I had known before finishing college was your career path comes first before anything else. Some people believe that applying to a company that gives you fringe benefits and stable work with incremental income as you progress in your tenure with that company is more important than hopping from one job to another. Well, I want to express my rebuttal by saying your priorities come first and they determine whether you'll be a person who will stay at a company for, let's say, 20 years or become a person who will do otherwise, who will work with different clients, different organizations, and will not be committed to only one. Alright, so I think here is when we start considering what kind of employee or worker do we want to become. Do we want to be a full-time worker or a freelancer? So if you're a full-timer like me, you have to abide by company goals, you have to be available for a certain number of hours, and you have to work at a particular shift consistently from, let's say, Mondays to Fridays, or maybe including Saturdays, depending on the job. There are lots of rules. So you're tied to that company culture and you are expected to present yourself even physically that you adhere to the company's philosophy. And your image can also spell out what kind of brand the company offers. So appearance is controlling your personal appearance also matters, and the space for individuality, honestly speaking, is limited if you're a full-timer. But if you want to have more freedom, you have to want to have a more flexible working schedule, then be a freelancer. Freelancers don't get jobs regularly. There will be lean times in which they don't have anything to work on, and then which means they don't get any pay. And there will be also times they have their peaks in which they get more than the usual number of clients or jobs, and then they of course they must get higher pay than usual. And if you're a freelancer, you have the freedom to reject certain job requests if you're not comfortable doing such, and you have more time with for other things. In my opinion, since before I started working as a full-time regular classroom teacher, I started out as a casual worker. Now, casual workers are a bit like freelancers, but casual workers are on call. They only get called to work at a particular time if there's an ongoing project. Like, for instance, in the Korean academy industry, there were times when some teachers, because they separated teachers into groups, there's this group of teachers who will still be asked to report even if there's a low number of students, and then there's another set of teachers who will only be called during peak seasons. So that's the casual work setup, and I started with that kind of setup. And when but now throughout the years, when I compare the two, if your situation, if you're the type of person like me who loves to get involved in different projects other than his main job, which is of course administration, well, perhaps if you're the type of person who wants to have more diverse roles, then be a freelancer. Full-timer, maybe you'll that suits people who not just work for the passion or interest, but because they work because they have a family to sustain. Now, this goes to breadwinners, those who really need a stable job with steady income, and then those fringe benefits like medical insurances and SSS, pensions. And also, if you're the type of person who prefers not to dig as much as the freelancer, who rather have someone else, a boss, okay, to take care of him or her, then the full-time job is for you. But again, like what I said, listen to your career path. Look at your career path. Review it every time. And it's the determiner of your choices. Where you'll apply, how long you stay at a company, how long you stay at a particular job or industry is always a matter of career pathing. And that is what I wish I had done before I started applying to my first job. What I did was listen to what other people said I should do. I listened to my mom, to my coworkers. They all believed that I was suited for teaching and not for anything else. Yes, I did what they told me to do. But right now, looking back, I wish I had listened to my own voice first. I still want to pursue a number of things other than teaching. I want to get back to my music. I want to brush up my musical skills. Yes, I still have martial arts. And well, in fairness though, despite my hectic schedule, I'm still able to train at night during this time, actually, weeknights at that. And then I also want to, yes, work on my craft. I want to focus on honing my artistic pursuits other than music. I want to, this one, Nocturnal Sage, is also one of my main pursuits. And then also I want to continue my creative writing, my craft of writing fiction. And then I also have philanthropic work at our church. To some, it's just a church ministry, but right now it has become a philanthropic work because I devote my time and money for that, for sustaining our church. And it's a cause that I'm fighting for. That's why I consider it a kind of philanthropy already. So see, your career path does not have to involve jobs or activities that you get paid for only. You also have to consider the other things, the other endeavors that you want to be busy with, the problems that you'd like to solve. So before you get out of school, be sure you craft the blueprint of your career path before someone else does it for you. you'll regret it if you stay at a job for, let's say, 20 years, and then after 20 years, that's the only time you realize that that wasn't your career path, that wasn't the direction you wanted to head. And you would wish that you had taken the risk and resigned from that company and went to another job. Okay? So, fourth lesson, career path comes first before anything else. Okay? In the world of work. Lastly, I made a subtle mention about this. Learning, studying never stops even after you graduate. So, leaving school or finishing school does not mean that learning also finishes. Okay, I graduated from college 2013. It's already 2020, and I have been pursuing my master's degree since October of last year. So you see, after 6 years of being a Lasallian graduate myself, I still have the urge to learn, and I still have the capacity for learning. Now, I'm not saying that learning is limited to enrolling yourself in a master's degree or any postgraduate degree program. No. What I mean is that you just stop going to a particular classroom, okay, with a number beside the door. But when you start working, you enter a new kind of classroom. A classroom that's wider, that's richer in experiences, that you would never have encountered while you were in that classroom with a projector on top and a professor who likes giving his or her monologues, and then you having to spend hours listening to him or her. That's not the classroom that you may be getting into after your work, but you'll be getting into a different classroom where lessons are presented in a different order, and then experiences that will make you learn these lessons in a different way than what you were expecting when you were in school. So there's no course outline that will be given to you at the start of the year, no course orientation. You just have to listen and pay attention all the time. Okay, so there are times when you fail to pay attention to the most important things at times, but attention is the main context now when you start working. So you really have to keep your eyes open, and you also have to make sure that you listen very well to important messages. So learning doesn't stop. So it's only when I started working that I learned the lessons that I've just listed. Titles are less important than what you're able to do in the long run. People, your connections with people, your relationships matter whether or not you're an introvert, whether or not you're antisocial. Even if you're antisocial or an introvert, you're still dependent. You're going to depend on people not to bother you. So, in a way, you're still connected to them, and you need them to do something, to behave in a certain way so that you get the private space that you want. Your ability, yes, to manage power, yes. How you ride politics is also a crucial factor that will determine the success of your career. And also, your career path, you should have a roadmap already before you start working. Or if you don't have any roadmap outlined beforehand, then always remember to draft such while you're on your first year of work. Because if it's just your first year of work, it's like your exploration stage. So you're not really, maybe you're not yet at that point where you're ready to commit to that organization. So it's your career path that will tell you when to leave a certain job and when to enter a new one, or when to last for a number of years at a particular company. Your career path, again, comes first before anything else. And then lastly, the final point, learning continues even after you finish school. It's just that you enter a larger classroom. So these are the things that I've been thinking about these past few days of quarantine. So if you enjoyed listening to this, hit that like button and leave some comments below if you agree or disagree with some of the points that I raised. And also, feel free to share this with people whom you think have a need to get their priorities straight. If you want to not miss out on any more of my videos, hit that subscribe button and then tap the bell icon. So I hope you enjoyed the second episode of While on Quarantine. This has been me. Yes, I'm Jeremy again. Oh yeah, I should have mentioned my name first. Well, this is me, just being me on quarantine. I'll see you on the next episode.